Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this very special event. I'm super excited you all are here today. This is going to be amazing. I absolutely cannot wait. Yes, welcome to the AV Cloud Summit. Before we start, I'm just going to briefly walk through a few housekeeping things. Many of you have been to a launch event before, so you are quite familiar. But if you haven't, welcome. I'm Steph Beckett, Managing Editor of Rave Pubs. I'm going to be the moderator and your host today. But before we kick everything off, we love when you guys ask questions. And the easiest way for you to ask any of the panelists or anyone questions today is to use the Q&A directly to my right. If you do that, then that is the easiest way for me to see it and ask any of our wonderful panelists today. We will also be asking poll questions today. So if you utilize that, that would be fantastic. That is a way for us to kind of make sure you're engaged. Continue on down, and we have information about all of the sessions for this wonderful summit. We have ways for you to connect with all of us, all about the panelists below in case you want to click on that and connect with any of them. And yeah, everything else should be pretty self-explanatory. So I'm very, very excited about this. We're going to first have a kickoff segment with me, with Omer, with Adam, and we're going to just kind of talk about why this is important. Feel free to ask questions during that, and I will be happy to relay those to Omer and Adam. After that, we're going to a 45-minute-ish big panel where we are just really digging in to everything about why this initiative is so great, so important for every single person in AV to get behind it. Thank you guys for coming, for showing up, and for being a part of this really cool initiative that I think is going to really do a lot of great things for this industry. So I could yap all day, but I think that y'all would probably prefer for me to not do that. So I'm going to bring on Omer Brookstein of Xyte and Adam Sowers of Sony, who are going to help me kick today off and talk about why this initiative is so important for our industry. Welcome, you guys.
Hey, Steph, great being here.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you guys. So, Omer, if you want to give us like a little bit of the background and the vision behind OpenAV Cloud, like tell me a little bit more about this.
Of course, yeah. So, Steph, I've been in this industry for over 30 years, and I've seen the industry evolve over and over and change multiple times from analog to digital, from coax to Ethernet. And I think what we are announcing today is another great and exciting transformation of the industry, and potentially the biggest one. Because if you look at the audiovisual industry, it really starts. First of all, it's an integrated industry, right? And we started by taking 5 remote controls and putting them into one universal control or one control systems. And APIs, and I'm sure Fer will touch it a lot in more depth later on, coming from Google. But APIs is just another form of integration, right? It stands for Application Programming Interface. And what we do now, we're essentially taking these APIs to the cloud. Xyte is one of the very few companies in the industry that is, a cloud company first and foremost. And we live and breathe cloud platform, SaaS, and APIs. And that led me, a few months ago to think about how we can take our industry to the next phase and how we can enable the same kind of integration we always enabled on-prem in the local network using IR and RS-232 for the last 40, 50 years, right? But taking that to the cloud. And I think we want to get to a place where we address our customers' expectations, where they're asking us to be a lot more like SaaS applications, where you can very, very easily integrate Zoom into Salesforce and Microsoft Teams, into Slack, and so on. And you do it with a press of a button. And in our industry, it is not currently the reality, and that's what we're looking to change with OpenAV. And I'll say one last thing, and I'll let Adam, join the conversation. But people often think about it as monitoring only, right? And I think monitoring is just one application. Think about cases where room booking solutions, right? Those platforms, they live in the cloud. And think about a room booking solution that can move teams from one room to another based on the health status of the devices in the room. That can only happen if we have those cloud APIs, because all those platforms, all those great solutions, they live in the cloud and need a way to interact with our devices through the cloud.
Absolutely. Yeah, Adam, I'm interested to hear from you. Tell me a little bit about like your industry perspective on why open APIs are essential, and like how manufacturers can support this interoperability and innovation.
Yeah, absolutely. So, similar to Omer, I've been in the industry for 30 plus years. And over those years, we hear time and time again that our end customers and our partners want to have that interoperability. And really, the way to do that is exactly what we're going to talk about today of having those open APIs. So, from Sony's perspective, we've been really working on this for several years. We continue to have a roadmap that goes through 2026 of how we're continuing to grow and expand our APIs to make it so strong for all of our customers, our partners, the end users. And I think really what this speaks to is you see a huge amount of manufacturers that have come together that could even be considered competition, but we all see a mutual window and we all see the importance of that interoperability to where if I want to work for Panasonic or with Panasonic or with any other company that's going to come forward, we all agree what those standard APIs should look like. And we're going to ease that interoperability to where we have an end user that comes and goes, I really need Sony and I need Panasonic, or I need Sony and some other manufacturer. There's already a level set between us and between our developers that we understand the language that we're both going to talk, and it just eases that entire process. And again, it's really to give that end user that we're all concerned about, customer first, to give them the capability to have the systems that they're demanding of us as an industry. And it's, again, to Omer's point, I think this is a huge crack in the wall, if you will, to where we can break through and really change the dynamic of how we're going to go service those customers.
Yeah. But I will say, like the manufacturers who are nervous about doing this are nervous that that opening up will essentially hurt their bottom line. What do you say to those who are nervous about that?
Yeah, so I guess I'll answer that a couple different ways. In everyone that we've talked to, we've had no one come out and ultimately just say, no, we're
Yeah.
not interested. We don't agree with this. This is against our policies or our procedures. We've had a few that said, hey, we're going to dip our toe in. We're going to watch from afar. And really, what I would say from your direct question is nowhere in this initiative are we saying to give away any of your IP or any of your secrets. That is not what we're asking. What we're asking is to come to the table to understand the API structure, and let's agree together as an industry and as manufacturers of what that should look like as we move forward into the future. Again, I can't say it enough. We're not asking you to give any of your IP away or trade secrets. We're not saying that there shouldn't be legal agreements between us and those end users or us and those systems integrators. Absolutely agree to all of that. So we're not really saying to give away any of those controls. We're just saying to come to the table with an open mind and an open set of development skill sets to where we can really set the industry straight and move forward in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Maybe, Steph, I can add to what Adam said, and I'll take two different angles with that. The first one is, once again, what API stands for is Application Programming Interface. Being concerned about having an interface to your platform is almost like being concerned about putting a few push buttons on your devices because they're going to hurt your bottom up. It's just another way to integrate and work with your devices. And every device manufacturers and every technology vendor out there want to have more ways for his customers to work with their devices. That's one thing. The other thing I always like to use is just a great example. Look at the Ethernet, right? HP and Cisco, they compete, right? But yet they share the same Ethernet and IP bits and packets from one company to another. And what that caused to be, it made it into the standard, right? And now the pie is much bigger. The industry of the Ethernet is much bigger. We see that in our industry, the audio video moving to IP. That could not have happened if they did not have this kind of standardization and open APIs. And now, at least they have an industry to compete on. What I'm concerned of is if we don't do it, right, we don't have an industry left to compete in, and then we can compete.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely a fantastic point. But Omer, I'd love for you to like talk. I know we're going to cover a lot about this throughout the rest of the bigger panel, but I'd love if you can kind of touch a little bit more on customer impact. How does this help the integrator? How does this help the enterprise end user? If you could just kind of cover that a little bit.
Yeah, of course. So, we talk to end customers all the time. Some of them are the largest enterprise customers out there, and they're constantly telling them, and I'm sure you'll hear that from Mark Peterson later on the panel as well.
Mhm.
We're done with proprietary system. We cannot lock ourselves into a single vendor. And by the way, even if we are an ex-vendor shop or whatever, there's no vendor in the industry that makes it all, right? There's some vendor that does control systems, some other does audio, displays, microphones, speakers, and so on. You can't get everything from a single vendor. But even aside from that, so we have all those vendors, but guess what? We use third-party platform. We use ServiceNow for ticketing. We use Slack for messaging. We use Microsoft Teams or Zoom for your UC, right? We don't want to have all those platforms just siloed and not talking to each other. We want to have a way to integrate. Once again, the same way that we get a ticket from a customer, it automatically opens a ticket in our CRM and immediately sends a Slack message to our customer success team. That's how every modern company works. And the AV industry, guess what? We need to adapt to the IT and to stand up to our customers' expectation. It's not going to be the other way around, right? So we have a choice to make. Either we're going to make that step forward for them or we're not. And I'm very concerned that if we don't, as an industry, then we'll have some bigger problems down the road.
Yeah, no, I love what you said about, yes, these third-party platforms exist, but the thing is they offer API-based integration within their own ecosystem. So they still don't play well with others unless the integrator is building like a super complex bridge and like I understand like your point is how like why are they still having to do that? Like we literally have the power to make it easier.
Yeah, just imagine a reality where you're using whatever content management system, whatever room booking system as I used before, and you click two buttons in their marketplace or ecosystem, and boom, you're connected to the Sony cloud, you're connected to Panasonic, to the Shure cloud, right? And all the other clouds, and then like magic, everything happens behind the scene. And where a microphone goes offline, you immediately be notified about it, and the team immediately moves to another. The technology is there, right? We just needed to make it accessible and available to those other platforms to leverage, and that's what we're trying to do with OpenAV.
Yeah. Adam, I'd love to bring. Oh, yeah,
go ahead. I was just going to jump in from a system integrator standpoint.
Yeah.
And going back into my past of being a systems integrator, we really see the demand. It continues to come forward that the systems integrator expect us as manufacturer partners to go figure these things out and to ease their overall burden because they're dealing with limited resources. The time that they have available to go deal with that end user or to come up with that solution continues to shrink. We're all dealing with shrinking margins. So the more we can do as manufacturers to ease that burden to go again, Sony and X are already compatible. We both share the same API structure. It gives just that reason of why we want to work together.
Yep.
We're servicing the customer, we're servicing our system integrators, and it really just sets the landscape of what we can do and grow the capabilities within our industry. And to Omer's point, for a long time, AV has been, I hate to use the word, but immature. And we've looked at IT, they've always led the way. They're more mature, they have more enhanced processes. We need to follow that. If we don't follow that, to Omer's point, I think we become less and less relative.
Yeah, absolutely. We have more of a comment from the audience member, but I think it's still going to be great to give that to you guys. This is from Hal Truax. He says, this isn't a question. Rather, my vantage point is that by having open APIs, the industry will be in a better position to better service their respective clients. Xyte is the gold standard, and we are moving our cloud monitoring to the Xyte platform.
Well, that's great to hear, obviously, but I want to stress out that it's really not about Xyte. And I like the fact that the way that Aaron from Brookstein actually positioned that it's simply about being a better citizen of the industry, but enabling that for our customers and clients, like Hal is suggesting. And I don't know how many of you watched the Microsoft event a couple of days ago, but in this industry, this software industry, right? everything is becoming more and more and more open. And just announcing it, we're not gonna, open that conversation now. We don't have the time for that. But even just opening MCP servers on Windows just shows you what the expectations of our customers. The same IT customers using, once again, Sony and Shure, Brookstein and Legrand and Wirestone devices. They're the same guys managing their Windows PCs. And when they look at us in an industry, to be honest, in many ways, I think they're disappointed, right?
Mhm.
And we need to fix it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And to expand on that, Steph, just from my perspective, Omer, myself, and the other founding members, we've been very specific to make this an open initiative. This
Right.
isn't about any one company. It's not about one manufacturer coming in and taking a proprietary, again, approach to this. It, again, is open. We welcome anybody, any other manufacturer that wants to come to the table and agrees to our 5 founding principles. Please come. Let's talk about it. Let's share those details. Help us set this roadmap that we're trying to achieve. Make your voice known.
Yeah.
So I just would encourage anyone that's listening or that looks at this, even in the future, it's an open platform. It's an open concept. It's not about Xyte. It's not about Sony. It's not about Panasonic, Brookstein, any of us as founding members.
Yeah.
It's truly trying to bring the best minds in the industry together to the table, and let's do this together.
I love that point. And Adam, I'm going to ask you to, kind of expand a little bit because, I know that it's not about Sony. It's about kind of, like you said, being at the forefront of something really important and putting that belief above, like, it doesn't matter who you are as a manufacturer. If you want to come, you're welcome. But as Sony is a tech forward brand, how do you as a manufacturer, how does supporting open APIs fit into your broader strategy? I know you kind of touched on it a little bit already, but I'd love for you to talk about it a little bit more.
Yeah, so we continue to hear from our customers that that's their expectations. We continue to hear that from our systems integrators, that that's their expectation. And Sony has really a good track history, if I can brag on us for just a minute, of really having that API structure. We're very diligent about how we do new APIs so that we don't break anything and they're backwards compatible and things of that nature, that I feel like when we come to the table of OpenAV Cloud, we have some best practices that we can share. But that's not to say that Sony has it all figured out. So again, the strength of this is to bring the best minds in the industry together of these founding members and anyone else that would like to join. And let's go have that seat at the table. Let's discuss it. And maybe there's a better way that Sony isn't aware of. Let's have that conversation. Let's set that as the new bar for all of us to follow. And again, it's in the importance of all of us to maintain that customer, because if we don't take the customer first approach, we don't have anything to do as an industry or as individuals. So it's a must.
Yeah. Going to kind of ask one more audience question before we take it to the bigger panel. So someone asked, are you working with any global standards organizations like ISO, ANSI, et cetera?
So at the moment, go ahead, Adam.
So I'll take it and then I'll let Omer fill in any of the blanks. So currently we've talked to Avixa, and we really feel like Avixa can be a huge partner to us, and they're absolutely on board to help support this and grow the initiative overall. And I think as we continue to add additional members, we may look at those other global standards to help us drive this even further. But again, we're just in the infancy of this overall initiative. So yes, we have grander goals and grander things that we want to move forward to. But we've started with Avixa at least to start, and then we'll continue to grow that as the initiative grows.
Yeah, and I believe, Steph, you'll share the website later on. We open a special category based on requirements from some of the other members to industry partners. So alongside Avixa, which Adam just mentioned now, the HD-based Alliance joined as industry partners, working with some other alliances as well. And we're already kind of expanding to adjacent industry that the audio video we see interest for OnVIF and others. And once again, the point is to make it as inclusive as possible. The goal, the ultimate goal is to, please the customer. And if something that we can do can help our customers, I think generally we're all in for that, and we'll make it happen.
Perfect. Well, thank you both so much. I appreciate your time. Adam, I'm not done with you yet. I'll bring you back on for the bigger panel. But yeah, okay. Before we continue on to our big panel, I know everyone is super excited about that, and I am too. I did want to draw everyone's attention to the website that Omer was mentioning earlier. So let's take a look. You guys can go for yourself. It is openav.cloud. But here is the website that has all of the information about the whole initiative. And of course, we have the founding members mentioned here, Brookstein, Legrand, Panasonic, Shure, Sony, Xyte. We have other industry partners and contributing members here too. So if you do want to, read along with us as we continue on to that bigger panel and check it out for yourself, you are totally welcome to do so. And we will even have someone drop that link in the chat for you guys so you can go directly there. But yeah, let's get continued on here. I'm very excited to announce some panelists to come on here with me. So Adam Sowers, are going to bring him back from Sony, Mark Peterson from Shen Milsom and Wilkie, Fair Oliveira from Wesco, and Petro Shimanishi from Panasonic. Hey, how is everyone
I don't hear anything.
doing?
Good day.
Thank you.
I am very excited to talk to you guys today. I know you guys have a lot of really, really great insights, and I know we did a practice call last week, and you guys had so many fantastic insights even there. So before we continue, I would love for you guys to just briefly go around, introduce yourselves, and kind of briefly say a little bit about this initiative and why you're a part of it. Mark, I'm going to start with you. Oh, actually, Adam, I'll start with you.
Okay, fair enough. So Adam Sowers with Sony. I think I've kind of already shared where I feel like the importance of this initiative is, but really it's, again, bringing the best minds of the industry together. Let's set those standards together. We welcome it. It's open. So please, if you've got understanding or you've got things to contribute, come to the table.
Yeah. Petro, I'm going to go to you next.
Hi, I'm Petro Shimanishi, and I'm Director of New Business Development for Panasonic, Projector and Display Americas. We are very excited to be part of this initiative. In fact, this initiative, as Omer and Adam stated, is very much needed, not only for the future of our industry, but also for the future of the customer enjoyment of all of our audio video products. So we're really excited about this initiative. We believe that for our integrators, this is going to make it much easier for them to install and scale systems. I think if anything that our industry has learned over the past 5 years post-COVID is that due to supply chain or just things happening, it's almost impossible for one facility to standardize on equipment. So interoperability is the name of the game here. And I think by having an open API across the industry and eventually an OpenAV Cloud, we're going to be able to unlock a great innovation that we can deliver as manufacturers to our end users as well.
Yep. And Fair, what about you?
Yes. So first of all, thank you for having me today, and Omer, thank you for the invite. We are I'm extremely excited to be part of this. This is a moment we are going to change this industry, and there is a reason for that. So my experience, my background, as Omer said, I went a few years at Google, where I had the opportunity to embark in innovation around cloud and APIs and microservices, and ultimately to AI. Right now, I'm the vice president and general manager of Wesco, a global distributor leader in AV. But I want to discuss today and be a little bit disruptive, which is how software and hardware can change this industry by coming together, right? And obviously, we're going to talk deep about this. But if you look at this industry, and if you look at other industries that they went disrupted before, think about the mobile industry, right? Who was the leader years ago? And Apple came along And then Google came along, hardware and software. And what
Mhm.
happened from there? iTunes and many other companies came after that. Who? Facebook, Airbnb. So many other industries they were created because we changed the way that the phone system was. Think about the same for watch, smartwatch. So the same I think I see for AV. The opportunities that we can unlock by integrating all these devices, we can basically take all this infrastructure in terms of focus on the customer, but the system integrators, the distributors, the the hardware vendors, they can really monetize even bigger the opportunity by unlocking innovation and taking this industry to a much deeper level. I'm happy to be here to discuss this.
Thank you so much, Fair. Mark, I'm going to have you go ahead now. If you want to introduce yourself,
Thank you.
talk a little bit about your experience and why you're excited about this initiative.
Great. And it was good to hear from Farah and see some of the opportunities. My name is Mark Peterson, and I work for Shen Milson Wilkie. I'm the senior principal at the firm running the global practice. And before working here for almost 10 years, I was for 15 years at a large financial firm doing the audiovisual control and management and support, and built one of the most prestigious systems that are still noteworthy today. And my role, I think, here is to kind of describe a little bit of the perspective of the end user. And as a pure consultant, we're in a unique position because we don't have any. We kind of sit in the middle, right, between the manufacturers and the platforms and everyone, right, trying to find the best solutions for our clients. So there is a gap in the client strategy and support planning model. Most clients currently are still focusing on building out hybrid spaces and standardizing on meeting room types. I mean, frankly, they're drinking from a fire hose. They're not in a position to do wholesale upgrades. They're taking a more strategic, gradual approach, putting out fires, reacting, and not doing this kind of strategic thinking. And I think that comes because those opportunities are more around when there is something like a new building or a new campus refresh, somewhere in the process where there's an opportunity to reduce labor cost and put in solutions that will provide some sort of dramatic effect. And they're not typically, now again, I'm speaking, it's a wide range, right? Fair and Petra, we've got a lot of different groups out there, but most of them have yet to understand and appreciate aligning with the IT departments, centralizing asset databases, creating cross-platform models. And they're also resistant to what's been, sort of these legacy closed vendor-specific ecosystems. They want to own their own data. They want to own their own destiny. They want to be able to migrate to something future and not be dependent upon a single platform. Now, why is right now really important timing for what's being announced? Well, post-pandemic and work from home really put the workplace under the microscope. The managers there really don't have an understanding of how much space they need. And it's not just the right technology, but it's how to be successful as a company. How do I retain people? How do I recruit people? And in this, what we're seeing is the entire AV industry is starting to shift from this hybrid enablement and smart meeting parity to data-driven work optimization. The rooms have become really intelligent. Now, Omar, you were saying we're embarrassing about the AV as being not kind of low tech, but I would say the one thing out of that hybrid of the pandemic is super intelligent cloud and super intelligent room in a remarkably short period of time to become adaptive. If you look at that compared to the workplace, the situation there is still unresolved. Managers really don't know where people are. They could check in and check out. They don't have any tools for optimization and productivity. And there's increasing demand here. So, I mean, I'm not the only one speaking about it. Look at what's happened with Zoom. They're going from their intelligent camera switching to supporting AI companion. Logitech's number one product at ISE was Spot, and that's a sensor.
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft has Spaces, Cisco has Places, or reverse them, Spaces and Places. QSC was just acquired by Acuity Brands, and that focuses on workplace technology. So what we're seeing is smarter devices coming in that are providing more sensors, more knowledge, combine that with more Wi-Fi WAPs and be able to do situational analysis. This is the trigger point of why API adoption is going to be really important now, because we're going to be able to see and measure what's going on and across the entire workplace. So that's why I'm coming here thinking this is a great opportunity to have this conversation and position this for those clients that are recognizing that I can find an opportunity to leverage this open platform in order to make this a greater opportunity. I'm going to stop there, Steph.
No, that was fantastic, Mark. I love how you mentioned that, there are a lot of key trends right now that are kind of driving this demand for open API. And a lot of it is that, traditional AV UC products are switching to, room products that are about for building management. So this is definitely kind of helping to push that along. Fair, I'm going to pick on you next. You kind of touched on this briefly, but I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about the powerful lessons that AV can borrow from software, and what would it look like if AV approached development with the same openness and platform-based thinking?
That's a great question. Of course, we will need a couple hours to see all the benefits, but
Yeah.
to be short, I think before I dive into the operation side, the security side, and the opportunity side around monetization, ecosystem, innovation, I think the mindset is different. When you look at, I came from hardware manufacturing, and I worked at Cisco, and then worked 10 years in open source software, Kubernetes, OpenStack, then Google, and now I'm in distribution now. If you think about the mindset in software, it starts from the user. It starts from better experience for the user, the customer, but the user. That's when you look at companies, they are from software, they talk, everything starts from the user backwards. When you think about the hardware industry, not just AV, but the hardware industry, we are changing, but we are still thinking about the vendor to the channel or system integrator or whatever the channel type will be to the customer. When in reality, it's backwards. The cloud industry starts from the customer, Amazon, and designed backwards. That's something, number one, we can adapt. The mindset is, it starts with the user. What can we unlock and build for the user to have a better experience, to have a better reliability system? And that's when I would try to break that down into how that will look like. So, for example, in software, we can reuse capabilities. We can reuse in one system, then replicate and do another. So you reduce the cost of initial innovation. You can scale designs on AV. Openness, for example, you could use open APIs, which will not only integrate with every hardware platform, but we allow developers to come to this industry and start creating innovation. Innovation, how to manage better rooms and AVs, how to operate. Then we can go to open AI capabilities, MCP capabilities. Hey, I not only want to understand my devices, but I want to go remotely and fix them in advance and work with other platforms, ServiceNow or any other platform, right? That Omer just mentioned. So the openness gives you the ability to expand the market potential, the monetization, because now you're going to have software on top of hardware that will give everybody in the value chain the ability to increase value and ultimately monetize more. Agile development, you can prototype solutions and very quickly develop rather than waiting 6 months, 12 months to come with a new hardware in the industry. Last but not least, continuous learning. You push the software, you see how that works. If it breaks, you push back, you go forward. That's the software mentality, the mindset.
Mm-hmm.
But very importantly, how can we do that, but with reliability? So that's why we have security, reliability, and practices that we can understand how failure will work in production and how we can mitigate those failures, those risks. I think this is what we can learn from software. And then how this AV can look like with this openness and platform thinking very quickly.
Yeah.
Unified platforms. So no matter what device I am, I'm thinking about the application and the user experience. And that you define where the platform from the hardware standpoint are you living, right? Number two, ecosystem, big, vibrant. So that will unlock an ecosystem that does not exist today, that can create software applications to monetize even more. Like I said before, because of mobile, because the iPhone and the Apple Store, the ecosystem unlock, we got Facebook and many other applications we use today, Uber and so on. Those ecosystems will never exist before iPhone. So the same in AV. Think about how AV will look like 5, 10 years down the road. Could be a much vibrant ecosystem and rapid innovation. So in long short story, if you think about that, AV adopting openness and this platform strategies from software industry will become agile, innovative, customer and user centric, and unlock new business model for the hardware industry, for the system integration industry, and for the user, but not bringing complexity, but bringing simplicity and unlocking more value.
Yeah.
You.
All right, before I continue on, it is going crazy with audience questions, so I'm going to go ahead and throw those to you guys. Adam, I'm going to let you answer this one first. So someone asked, is this effort similar to what Sony, Bosch, Axis, and others did with, is it ONVIF, or do you pronounce it ONVIF? I'm not sure,
Yeah.
but for the physical security product industry over a decade ago? She's asking if this is a little bit similar.
So it's similar, but not the same. So again, from Sony perspective, if I put my Sony only hat on, we tried to be one of those industry leaders and innovators. So again, this is Sony coming to the table again with our founding members. And again, I sound like a broken record, but this is an open access to anyone that wants to join and to bring those initiatives forward, and let's set this together. And I would like to just veer off from something that Fear said. It gives us a chance to be innovative and we can respond quickly. I'll speak from my 30 years as a manufacturer. I can adopt and develop a cloud API and switch that so much quicker than if I have to wait for my hardware developers to do a firmware push. Firmware pushes take, unfortunately, months, if not years. But I can take a cloud API and I can address that customer need within 90 days or less. So it's so much more rapid to bring those solutions to our customers and to our partners that it really sets the industry into a whole different light. So I know that was a long-winded answer. I apologize.
No, that's perfect. And I know, John asked, are there any API demonstrations planned for InfoComm 2025? Possibly one of the primary supporters, anyone showing anything with API. And I know other people have asked about Xyte's MCP. That will for sure be at InfoComm 2025, that I can guarantee. But I was wondering, yeah, Petra, do you want to take this question?
So Panasonic will be showing an API in our tech suite for feedback. So if you are a Panasonic dealer or you just want to come check it out and provide us with some input, please definitely come by the booth, see me or one of our Panasonic salespeople, and we'll be happy to take you right over to the tech suite.
Perfect. And I know Xyte is demonstrating this as well at their booth. Adam, did you want to take this question as well?
Yeah, sure. So from a Sony perspective, we continue to invest in our cloud API and what we call zero-touch provisioning. So again, both cloud-based platforms based around APIs. So again, would love to have anybody come visit, and we would happily go into more details on what we're doing, including where we're at from a roadmap perspective going throughout 2026.
Perfect. And Mark, I'm going to direct this one to you. This person asked, if IT has been leading and doing something like this for years, why create something new? Why not adapt something that already exists in the IT world? So I'm wondering if you can kind of speak to that a little bit.
Sure, and we've had experiences with that. It's kind of a combination of the two. Let's just kind of unpack this a little bit. I mean, from a perspective of the client, there's the entry level and access to different devices. For example, if I've got DSP, control system, router, and all these other devices, and they're across my campus, PDUs are a great example because IT uses a lot of power, remote power management. That whole has to be ring fenced because you don't want to have to create unique IDs and change them every 30 days for every single device, right? So you got to protect your environment there and have your access in and out of that secure. And within there, if you think about it, again with IT, you got tier 1, tier 2. The just like we're talking about ServiceNow and break fix, you've got some items, in fact, almost all these, right? They're on the network now, and they're going to have a link light. There's going to be first dispatch, but then you've got much more critical analysis. So that these companies, wherever they are, have another level of diagnostics that you need to get to if and when you are really trying to get to root cause analysis. You don't need them every day. So what this is creating is an opportunity to have kind of this levels of access. So from an IT perspective, yes, the connectivity, the ring fencing, the security of this data is still should follow this architecture. But I don't believe that there is the same level of bidirectional critical diagnostics happening across multiple platforms. So the point is, if I take one manufacturer's DSP and combine it with another manufacturer's XYZ, or have different types in my campus, I want them all to work, and I want them to work with Sony's displays. And so there's that level of kind of overarching. And for this reason, I don't think it's just about the APIs. I also think we need to, when I'm coming here, is thinking of a common language, common schema, common ways. Just like with the hang up the phone is red and pick up the phone is green, somehow we got there because everyone kind of agreed. So if we're looking across, whether it's a DSP or a control system, we can establish sort of core rules of the road as a group. This is how the architecture is going to be defined, and allow for that. At least it's at the high level. So you can get in and you get out, you can combine them, you can have that kind of moving around. And I don't think we want to have situations where you have to invest entirely into every system having remote diagnostics. A lot of systems don't need it. They're just simply not that necessary if you got a video bar in a room to have overkill on diagnostics. So I think the system allows for you to incrementally grow the value in. And the other side of this is what I want to talk to, and this is, I think Adam and Fer may probably agree with me, is that when I'm dealing with troubleshooting today, I am looking at what's happening in one room versus another room. Do I have a problem here? Do not? What I don't know is what's happening across the entire industry. So I have no idea if everyone's having the same issue. And it's not necessarily a problem with the product, but it's a problem with multiple products existing in the same sandbox, right? So a DSP can be, running Dante is an example of that. You can have a certain layer where it's working and now it's not. So the more I know what's happening, and in fact, from display, the key for me to getting this unlocked is the large direct view LED displays at 500, $500,000, whatever that number is. It's certainly a very, very big investment for the client. They want to know down to the pixel whether or not that display is working. And to get there, right now, several of the manufacturers are dependent upon, the players or some other system, not necessarily their display, to provide that situational awareness of what's going on their product, right? But look at the reverse of that. If they know, if a product's reporting power supply, temporary, power supply fluctuations across every single power display, that gives them the awareness of their reliability of their own product. So from my perspective, why am I buying a spares kit that is based upon them simulating the route to time to failure? Because these products are out of the market before they're failing, right? So I become the guinea pig and I have to pay, I'm representing the client, have to pay for not knowing that it could fail. So here's my Band-Aid in case it does. No, that should no longer be the case. It should be, you've got 1,000 of these out here. You should know how many are failing or not failing and give me the right amount of protective analysis to get me to that failure, not based upon what you've simulated in your lab. So back over to you, Steph.
No, thank you. I think that was a perfect answer. Petra, I'm going to pick on you next. As a manufacturer, I'm interested to know how you're reconciling pressure to remain proprietary with this external demand for this openness, this interoperability.
Well, fortunately at Panasonic, we don't really have a lot of internal pressure to be proprietary. We always act in the best interest of the customer, and that's why we're one of the founding members for this association. However, I can imagine, having worked at some other manufacturers during my 30-year-long career in AV, and oh my God, can we just talk about us being a Gen X type of group? Because it kind of seems like that. Anyway, I can imagine some people maybe reconciling or trying to reconcile internal pressure. I think what I would encourage everybody to think about is take a look at the IT industry. Why is the IT industry so much bigger than AV? Why is that? Why did the IT industry grow so rapidly? It's because they had an agreed upon set of standards, and that drove a lot of innovation. It drove a lot of customer driven ideas. It was no longer a walled garden. And frankly, this is the best way for us to sustain ourselves as an industry. You know, when I started in this business, the whole keyword was convergence, right? Oh, IT and AV, when are they going to converge? Well, that was 30 years ago. So if you're still working for somebody that's operating under those precepts, I think you probably want to take them out and have them take a look at some of the things that are going on in the IT world. The example stated earlier about Salesforce integrating with ServiceNow and ServiceNow integrating with the other platforms is quite true. We need to be able to provide this value to our customers. If we don't, somebody in IT is going to wake up and do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Fair, did you want to comment?
Yes, I do. I'm super excited to hear this from you, Petra, and Panasonic. Amazing. One of the things that I think we need collectively understand, and that's why the mindset has to shift to, I think we can learn from the software, is from the user standpoint. Security, rooms to monitor. Manager says, oh, we need to monitor rooms. We don't need to rebuild all these capabilities. That's why I love this initiative, OpenAI Cloud. Most of these capabilities exist in the cloud world. IAM, access, identity, and management control. You're going to have security. You're going to have Okta across AV systems. Just to give an example, you're going to basically think about this. Step back. AV is going to be another application running in the cloud. So the moment you understand that, we have to open to be able to participate in the next phase of AV. Otherwise, I'm going to give you another example. How many of you do you have a physical scan in your house when you want to send a PDF? I use my phone, I just take picture and I send. People say, Fear, we need to integrate that physical scan with the system. Not really. We just need to build an application. So the world's shifting. So what I mean by that, we don't need to have all the hardware vendors developing security capabilities, network operation center controls from scratch. They are going to tap into the cloud industry, the AI industry, the mobile industry. So we're going to be able to tap into those capabilities, and that's when you become a bigger industry for AV. When you said about IT and IoT, when you become standard and you open API, so basically you go to the next level of your industry. I think we are in a AV hit the ceiling, a $600 billion business or something bigger than that, but it hit the ceiling. Why? Because we are not integrating to these growth markets. That's why we need to think about how do I go to that next level?
Absolutely. Adam, did you want to add?
Yeah, I'd love to jump in there on something that Mark and Fear both have hit on. From my experience, and we continue to hear it, I continue to hear it from those customers that they're demanding, if I've got 200 rooms to go manage, I'm not going to go to 3 different panes of glass, so to speak, or 3 different consoles. I won't do it.
Right.
And again, if we look at IT has already paved the path for us to be able to manage entire networks, global networks, from 1 pane of glass. And again, if we as the AV industry don't get on the right path, we're going to be left behind. And that's the real risk, in my opinion, and Petra hit on it as well. If we don't get on the right path, someone else is going to come into our industry and they're going to disrupt the entire thing. And we're all going to sit around the table and look at each other and go, how did this happen?
Right.
It's great to hear a manufacturer say that, because it's it's always been sort of play in my sandbox, and the end users wanting to have that space where they can get that information. I think they can coexist too. I think there's probably some people thinking, well, what's my value differentiator if I'm all open, right? And I think you can have a levels of specificity and uniqueness to your solution. And I think also, Fair, we had talked before about having the marketplace also drive some solutions. Like
Yes.
when you think of things like, self-healing, what is self-healing, right? Now you got an opportunity to really define a self-healing solution that you could put in that would work regardless of whether you had one manufacturer's a solution or another, or not. The challenge, I think, is that we want to make sure it's open, but that innovation continues. The manufacturers need to continue to innovate and provide competitive solutions when they come to the market. So our goal is to allow that to be fertile, but create even more opportunities. I think Legrand is on here, right? The ability to, in their case, have multiple brands under one brand, but all have a commonality. And there are other brands that have that same need as well, is to drive that the consistency across all of their sub-brands. But I want to make sure we come to this with the right energy, so everyone feels empowered that they're all going to take a win from this as opposed to losing out. So thank you, Adam, from manufacturer perspective for representing that.
And Mark,
and also Petro as well from Panasonic. Thank you.
I think for everyone here, market and team, to make sure it's not the software is going to win this battle. It's not who is going to win. Like we can have examples like Microsoft sunset Skype recently, I think a couple of months ago. The reality is who's going to win? The ones that they think about the ecosystem and the user, they will unlock innovation. If you're a software company and you are not unlocking innovation in the ecosystem, you're going to left behind too. I think there's an opportunity for Panasonic, Sonic, and any other hardware AV company to start connecting with a developer ecosystem, creating platforms, connecting with cloud ecosystem partners. So there is the opportunity now is much bigger. So for everyone go to the next level, right?
Absolutely.
And I'll just jump in there, Steph, from Mark's comment and even Fear's comment. We, as this initiative, aren't asking anybody to expose their IP. We're not asking you to give away any of your trade secrets.
Right.
And again, I think if we come to the table with that open mindset, we can be very innovative. We can continue to do what we do very well. But again, we're all going to be marching to the same beat of the drum, understanding that at some point, Sony and Panasonic, we may have to interoperability with each other's products for the end user or for that customer. And again, taking that customer first drive to Fear's point, where other industries take that customer first and they build backwards, versus the AV industry for many years, or at least that I've been involved in it, we're the opposite. We force it to the customer and we go, here's what we built, don't you love it? And when they go, no, we don't love it, we're all shocked and we look at each other and go, well, how can you not love this? We've designed it within our ecosystem. It's great, but we have to take that other mindset, to Fear's point, of customer first. Mm-hmm. What are you trying to resolve? And I'm sure Mark hears it on a daily basis when he goes in probably for a needs assessment to go, what are you trying to achieve, Mr. Customer? What's the end goal? And then we're going to build those systems to work around what that goal is, not them coming in and going, I've got the best collaboration system you're ever going to see. We already know what you need. Here it is, Mr. Customer.
Right.
Actually, Adam, what they ask for is, we want multi-purpose, multi-flexible. We don't want to be pigeonholed into a solution today. We want to be able to do everything because that's what we're going to be. Want to be flexible. And so what this is doing is saying, yes, you can do that. Yes, you can define the system today, and you can change it without having this unsurmountable cost, of restrictions that would prevent this. And this is obviously, no one said the AI 2 words in this, which is remarkable. I think this is the longest podcast I've done with artificial intelligence has been said. My God. Anyway, but what I'm saying is that we're seeing more opportunities on the technology side to be able to say, I don't need it to be defined. My camera presets don't have to necessarily be defined. I can allow, this is what customers want. They don't want to be pigeonholed. I'd love to have them say, this is it. And I think it was one of the questions in the chat here was about one of the roadblocks. And this is one of the ones to me is that I need to figure out how much it's going to, how the system's going to be engineered, how much is going to, and how to put the pieces together, but with the understanding that it may change in shorter time every time, right? Mm-hmm. The lifespan of these systems has, and I think Petra was referring to this, the cloud-based, right? A lot of the product previously would be on campus and defined by the campus, and now it's being defined by the cloud and the services that the cloud provides. And my upgrades aren't based upon my hardware's capabilities. It's keeping up with the Joneses on the network side, on the cloud side, and what features and capabilities. If I can do, whether it's automatic camera preset recall, which is happening now on the edge, should be happening in the cloud, just like camera switching is happening in the cloud. That means I've got to be able to have a system that is defined up in the cloud, and the hardware has to be upgraded to continue to support those changes. So I hopefully answered the question in the chat, and also responded to you, Adam.
Yeah. All right, I'm excited to ask this next question because this is like this is a quite a doozy of like a thing. So, how do you explain this real business value of open APIs to someone in the C-suite or in finance or like, the people that like ultimately need to like sign off in a way, right? And this is for anybody who wants to answer, anyone who wants to take it first.
Well, as a
There was muted,
manufacturer,
but
I just showed our C-suite the iPhone, asked them how many people had one. And then that led into a great conversation about what you can do with it and how open it is and how you have so much more choice. And that kind of got their minds centered around the idea and the opportunity.
I would like to expand on that, and Petro, which is great what you just said, because like for the C-suite, understand the user, right? In this case, the user in this conversation will be the C-suite. So they're gonna look at the top line revenue, the COGS of the company, and the bottom of the operating profitability and the EBITDA. Here's the thing, like you make the revenue and the gross margin on the hardware side, you have your entire go-to-market set on that market. The moment that you unlock, you're going to unlock new revenue stream, thinking about the P&L, right? New revenue stream at the top of the P&L, new revenue stream by, for example, imagine if now I can map all my devices in the world that I need to update the firmware. How much costs today to go across the globe and update? Because if I don't, they replace to somebody else. Okay, fair, understand. People flying all over the world is not going to be possible. What if one day I have a MCP that look at that, maybe it's coming down the road very soon, and then I look at that device and say, hey, this device has the firmware is 5 years old, and then Agentic AI says, dear C-suite, do you want we update your device? And then goes to the cloud. We don't need to build the cloud exists. Goes to the cloud and say, okay, yes, do it. And then it goes to the cloud and gets a driver. And, okay, thank you, C-suite. We are uploading the new driver to your microphone in your room or in your, and then out of the sudden it's working. And then you update everything in the world at zero cost, and you sell that services, and it's a new revenue stream for your company as a hardware company. So you see, you change the entire game, and you are putting your company in a much different level in terms of revenue, lower cost, which means higher gross margin, higher EBITDA, higher market cap. So that would be my idea.
And higher customer lifetime value.
Exactly.
And I would just jump in there and paint this picture to where, imagine the day where a piece of hardware could tell through an API to that cloudosphere just described that I've got a power supply that's weak and I'm going to fail within a period of time. It's time to roll a truck. It's time to send that advanced replacement. It's time to let the systems integrator know. It's time to let the IT team know. At that level, the C-suite, you're saving money because now it doesn't take the time of the room is broke. I go in for a meeting. Oh, wow, it won't turn on. Now what? We have to go through that entire process of a service model to where if we allow the piece of hardware to be intelligent through an API, it can tell us exactly what it's doing and when it's going to fail, or at least predict it. And Mark, I hate to do it to you, but throw the AI word in there and allow some potential AI interaction to monitor those on our behalf and to go, room 234 is getting ready to have a failure within this piece of hardware. It's time to act now.
Yeah, well, there's two things. I think that to answer your question, I don't believe that OpenAI needs to be open platform API needs to be said at the C-suite level. It should be just done. It's a part of the That's just how we got here. The answer is that the systems cost less to deploy and they're faster and easier to support. And that, what we are doing now is each advanced system that those C-suite people are in bespoke spaces, right? They're the hardest ones to build, the most complex, the ones that must not fail, right? And so they're experiencing a high cost every time they do it. It's a whole new control system. Why am I having to buy an entire new programming model? If I'm running slightly different systems, I'm having to spend on that. And then there's a long lead time. So as soon as those rooms go down, or they're using them at critical levels, they can't afford to have them go down. They don't have enough of those types of rooms, right? And they wouldn't buy multiple. So one room goes down, it has to be up again as quickly as possible. So those are the factors I think that lean into the conversation. But I think that they still want some security within constraints. They don't necessarily want to have everything exposed. If you use the wrong terms, it's going to make them feel like in order to get a value out of this proposition, they have to relinquish security, and that's not the case. That's not the case. But it does require a strategy to deploy a solution that allows for that kind of implementation of those open platform capabilities without relinquishing their ring fencing of protecting their assets.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a great point, Mark, and I'll make this quick. Just putting my systems integrator hat on again, when I hear that well, these are going to be less expensive systems, I think some of the systems integrators, their alarm bells go off. But I think they have to be open-minded to look at this, because even though it's a less expensive system, their ability to grow their services and to offer those to their clientele, that's where they're going to make up those margin differences, because they're going to be able to enhance what they're offering to that customer. It's no longer just hardware in a system sell, it's the overall lifespan of that system, long-term service, maintenance, the overall agreement, and even to Mark's point, when they refresh, how are we going to make that refresh as clean and easy as possible? Previously, we would tell them, well, I'm going to send my programmer in, and they're going to spend 200 hours reprogramming all of your systems. And when you look at that bill for 200 hours of a programmer, you would probably pass out.
Right. Wait, we got a really good audience question I'm excited to give to you guys. This one's from Sam. And Sam asked, who is the customer, the end user or the integrator? I think open APIs help the integrator. The end customer only wants an easy to use system, not necessarily an easy to use API.
Can I take on that? I think
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Fer.
So that's another thing we can borrow from the software industry. In the hardware industry, we tend to think about who buys from me is my customer. Well, he's buying from you because he's installing to somebody else. The user, that's why the user concept is something we can borrow from the software. The user can be anybody who is using the system. If somebody in the system integrator is using the system, at that moment, that person is the user. And if they are paying for that, they are the customer. But the system integrator in general, they are implementing systems to their users that ultimately are their customers. If we think about that mindset, we develop systems for the user who's going to use the application to solve a problem, either a collaboration, a meeting, whatever the case may be. Again, AV becomes an application for the user. And then if we do that, the entire ecosystem backwards will fall in place. We're going to help the system integrator to improve the experience, to manage experience, to deploy faster. Everything will follow in place. But the user is actually the customer, but the channel is who is helping the user. Hopefully that is clear.
Yes. Anyone
Yeah,
else?
also there's more data utilization analysis. So the open AI is going to allow them to the customer to not only get better and more accurate information of the type that depends on their, as a stakeholder, whether they are managing the network or whether they are a break fix engineer or wherever they are in the system, they should be able to get the data that they need to be able to get to without having to make customized code to make that data appear, right? Which has been the case so far. If you want to find that information, well, you should have told me when I programmed the thing. Otherwise, I would have told you how many people are in the room at any given time. Now that's not the case. So that, I think, allows for the owner, the customer, to have greater ability to use the utilization over time. But all the way through this, the question is like, what am I trying to solve for the customer? And I think that implementation, as I think Fair is probably the one saying this, is we've been thinking things under these guidelines. This is how we've seen the world, right? This is what's made up how we see it. We need to open those doors wider. Look at the situation more like the way that Zoom and Teams has kind of captured the cloud-based market, and think beyond what the current capabilities are to much more expansive versatility in the workplace, in knowing what's happening when people come in the room, as well as where they're going out the door, and everything in between. So it isn't limited to device analytics. It isn't limited to only, the responsiveness and self-healing. It can be remarkably more versatile, and it gives me much more awareness of what's happening in other companies, not just my own, because I should be able to have more awareness of those same products and how they're working somewhere else, because that information should be shareable, because it's now not just my customized utilization or my mapping, but it's others that are all using the same reference points.
I think it's this is a great point, Mark, because the reason we're trying to think like, hey, let's think open, let's see how the market is today, but let's imagine how it could look like. Look at the car manufacturers, right? So today the car is different than the car used to be 10 years ago, right? Now the car is basically another compute running around the seat, right? So
Computer on wheels.
Think about the AV. I go to a room, people have the data in the cloud. They say, Fair, I don't drink, but if I go to a meeting and there is a water and a Diet Coke right there, so Uber can make some revenue, and the company can make some revenue because they are connected to Uber Eats, right? So there are a lot of things that we are not having in terms of experience in these rooms, or people working from home. What type of experience you can provide to your employee when the AV system has information, not privacy information, please, but information that actually makes sense to provide a better experience for the employee, to provide the ability to connect to, like, think about the healthcare today. I can connect to a doctor very quickly to a cloud. So before COVID, we all had these conversations for decades in the United States. Oh no, we cannot connect the healthcare in the cloud, the remote assistant for a patient and doctor. With COVID, that's the only option we had. So then we accepted and we did it. And now we are unlocking the healthcare system. Yes, there's compliance, security. We have to work on that. But at the end of the day, we need to think about, what if I do it? Those are the options. What if I don't? And then goes somebody and disrupt the phone industry, disrupt the car industry, they come disrupt the AV industry. What if some software company work with another company that is in the IT? You said IoT and IoT, IT and OT. Then we come with ServiceNow, disrupting the CRM, but they go and say, hey, AV is just another system. HR, operations, AV is another one. Then AI. So we can see somebody leading AV in the industry. They might not be in this room, or they might. So it's about us, like, coming together to unlock this future.
Absolutely. I'd love to throw another question to just all of you. And this is kind of a wide-ranging question. It's kind of one that we've answered a little bit this whole time, but I would love for you each to kind of talk about like what the industry stands to lose if it clings to legacy architectures.
I'll jump in there from my perspective, and I think several of the other panelists have already hit on it. If we don't get on the right track, we're going to be left behind. There's somebody else in another industry, IT or software or one of those other industries, that are watching us. They're looking, and they're just waiting for the opportunity to come in and really make a big splash. And as soon as that happens, we're all going to be, unfortunately, playing catch up. And is it going to be too little too late? I don't want to be in that scenario. I would much rather be in the driver's seat with my fellow manufacturers and partners, and let's go set the path that we know our customer wants. We continue to hear it. So let's do the right thing.
Mhm.
I think on top of that, I think you nail on the head. I think the other thing, what we lose? We lose innovation. We lose a future that how could look like, how great could look like. I think that FOMO is really hard. And the second and the third one is if we don't do it, somebody will do it, no question about it. And the one that who's gonna do it, you disrupt, right?
Mhm.
And then the ones that then they follow, they'll fight for 50% of the market because the leader is going to get 50% of market share. So the point is we got to do it. So I think it's an innovation dilemma for sure. We need to respect how companies they want to move, how the ecosystem is going to play out. But I think Xyte is an example of a company which is already innovating because they want to unlock the customer experience. I think the customers like in different industries, not only for corporate rooms, but if you go to retail customers, I had a conversation in the previous connection we had before. Think about weather company. Now, for you to measure weather and some issues that you can have in the weather or in your house or with any aspect of the weather, right? You need to put sensors or cameras in different cities. Why put more sensors and cameras? Because security cameras, they are already there. What if I have a security system, but I can access that camera? I get the data. Now I can measure all the world and I can create more services on that and protect the citizen. So there is a great opportunities that today we see the AV system, but AV, even in the hardware industry for AV, is going to connect with security cameras and way so more opportunities. The hardware industry is going to grow as well for the AV.
I think top of my mind when I brought it up was, not only the sustenance of our industry, but what we could potentially lose is our connection with the customer. And, Panasonic Projector and Display Americas, just like everybody else, I'm sure, keeps our customer front and center, regardless of whatever we're doing. So you lose that customer connection, and quite surely your business is going to follow. And I think this is really super important as many customers are demanding internet connectivity, or they're demanding products are cross-compatible. They're demanding that systems are modular and easily able to be programmed and integrate together. They're demanding scalability. As an industry, if we don't address these demands, somebody else will.
Absolutely. Well, I know we're we're starting to wind down a little bit, so I'm gonna bring Omer back on because I would love for him to answer this question as well. But I'm gonna ask each of you to kind of go around. Mark, I'm gonna start with you and just talk a little bit about what the audience should take away from this conversation. What do you want them to do now or next with this information?
Oh, okay. Well, I think it's continuing to be an industry advocate. I think I would ask, and I've been doing this actually quite a bit recently with direct view LED manufacturers, is having pushing them to provide me with more diagnostics and more information than they actually can support with their products today. So in this case, that concept around, do I know the health of my system? Can I identify to the pixel level what's going on? And when the response is no, you can't, but you can do it over here, or you need another box or another system to solve for it, then I start to push that question a little bit further and going, are you recognizing that you have an opportunity to gain from this, as well as the end user, as well as the installer? So I think my recommendation to people is to continue to advocate for this open market and reach also not only to your system integrators that are struggling with this and trying to figure out how to solve for it, and are programming or hiring programmers or trying to find the next programmer, and paying dearly for lessons learned on having to program in certain archaic methodologies. and changing it constantly. I think this is kind of part of, I wanted to finish that other question, which was, the control of your own destiny, I guess, having a little bit more sense of control of your destiny. And I think that's where I would start, by going back towards the manufacturers and identifying the ones that are creating opportunities for these remote platforms to work deep into their models, as opposed to just being layered on. You can access it, but you got to have, as you said, multiple panes of glass. We don't, Adam. We want a single pane of glass, and we want to get there with the least amount of friction and cost, and we don't have to build it twice or three times. I would also go and use ServiceNow as a great model for where this needs to go to. The change the ownership of who and what is being done, from being the traditional break-fix model where a system integrator is coming in to fix something, where first level may be a desktop support because of IT, still requires service at another level, tier 2 level, for a system integrator, but not necessarily for the first level. So what does that look like? And how can we build out a tool like ServiceNow that allows me to expand in all directions, whether it's IT or AV?
Absolutely. Fair, do you want to go next?
Yeah, so I think this is the beginning of something very, very big we are going to embark. And absolutely is the opportunity for AV to join the cloud industry, the AI industry, the all industries out there. We cannot thrive in an island. It's an ecosystem, right? And I think last but not least is the opportunity for us to create something with developers, with integrators, with distributors, with customers, everybody in the value chain. And with Gen AI, and now more recently, agentic AI, I think it's less about should I do it, it's more about I have to do it, otherwise I will get left behind. But I think there is a great opportunity ahead of us. We should be all excited. I'm excited about this industry. I thought this industry needed innovation. I think it's coming on time, and I'm looking forward to it.
Perfect. Petro, do you want to go next?
Sure. Well, we've established this industry association. The idea here is to create a standard. We would like to leverage as much as we possibly can existing protocols for speed to market, but there are some other things that need to be developed to be able to do that. So we invite all AV manufacturers, software developers, integrators, standards bodies, even forward-looking customers to join this initiative. Together, we as an industry can build a more open, flexible, and future-ready AV industry. So let's unlock some innovation by removing some silos. We think this is the perfect time for an OpenAV Cloud initiative.
Perfect. And Adam, what about you?
Yeah, so I would just parrot what we've already heard, but really I think it's time to change the conversation. It's time to change the discussion. And I would really call on my industry peers out in the marketplace. It's here, we're here, come to the table, come join the conversation, and let's drive this innovation together. Because again, that's really what we're here for, that's what we're about. So it's time. The time is now.
Isn't this the idea? Then we try to get the end users to say, this is what I need. And the manufacturers say, well, this is what I can give you. I mean, I think a workshop in which you really hear that conversation back and forth. I need this in my space in order for this to work. Can you provide me with this tool? We're not seeing that even in this call. We're I think, absent is that end user voice to the point it needs to be to drive that conversation. So I'd really like to see that conversation between the platforms, everybody on the platform level, whether it's Xyte or Pepperdash or whoever, Symphony, have them there listening, have the manufacturers and have the end users, and be able to have this kind of come to the moment of this is what I need, how do I get to it?
Absolutely.
Sorry, I went twice, but I wanted to put that.
No, that's totally okay. That's what this is for. Omer, I would love to hear your kind of like concluding thoughts here of what you'd love the people here to take away if who they're watching and listening, and what you think the next steps are.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you, Steph. I think it's been quite an experience to be at the backstage and just, listening to everybody and seeing the question flowing through the chat. And I guess the short answer is that I completely align with what everybody said. I think it's about, welcoming everybody. I know Jeff, I believe, asked a question. The initiative is open for every tech vendor. It could be a device manufacturer, it could be a software like PepperDash and Symfony and others to join. And it will enable independent programmers to develop custom third-party application on top of that and innovate for their business and for their customers. So by all means, join us. We're open for everybody. And I think I specifically connect to, I think, what Mark and Fer kind of put the emphasis on, and that pleasing the customer, putting the customer first, making the customer experience as good as possible, and walk from the customer experience back. And Steve Jobs had a really good video about that, and I think he knows one or two things about customers' expectation, specification, and user experience, and remove as much friction as we can. But so that's, I guess, the short answer. But the longer answer is that I got to tell you, Steph, I'm way more pumped up after the conversation now and the questions coming, because I really, as I said before, I thought, and now I'm convinced we're at a pivotal moment for this industry. And there's a bunch of questions going on about intellectual property and the openness and maybe potential risk for device manufacturers and so on. And it was great to hear from Adam and Petro, but I read the other day an article about Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft. I think he's concluding about 10 years as CEO. And, he got a company at quite a challenging time at the time, right? And one of the first decisions he made was running Linux on Azure, right? Think about it, the Windows company running Linux on Azure, right? And just see where Microsoft was 10 years ago and where Microsoft is today, right? And once again, opening everything to everybody else to integrate with Azure and all the different services, and running Microsoft Office on Mac and iPhone, right? When they had the Nokia phone at the time. Just think about it and what it did to Microsoft, and as well as some other decision. We're at the same moment for the industry. And some people asked about, are we reinventing the wheel? No, we're not reinventing the wheel. We open everything as well. And what you'll hear, for those of you coming to InfoComm, is that we don't try Xyte to be a monitoring tool. We try to enable that and remove that friction, make it more accessible. So Mark and I had some conversation about looking at facility management system and other monitoring tools. If the customer is using ServiceNow or JLL system, whatever it is, and they need to better integrate, we see our mission to enable that and make it easier for them, and not by any means lock them to any ecosystem. And maybe the last thing I want to share is that some AI buzzword came up, and MCP, and you'll see them at InfoComm, obviously. But I think Fer mentioned going from I think Gen AI to now agentic AI, and one thing that we also keep in mind is that those IT teams we're working with, they'll need to scale their operation. So using agentic AI to be able to communicate with those devices, to self-heal challenges, to fix issues remotely, AI agents will do it for us. But this is really just the beginning, because the next phase of AI is physical AI. And what that means is that every device will be an AI-powered device. And we're talking, because our pain today is distributing firmware and software update, and that's all right. But we need those kind of technology and APIs to enable the MCP, and we need this kind of technology and APIs to be able to deploy AI to the edge, to be able to collect this data, which Mark touched on before, to collect this and improve our models. Because guess what? Those devices, they now live on the corporate network, not some siloed network. And if you have the best AI model today for your microphone or display, whatever it is today, but you're not improving that AI model over time, then in 6 months, less than 6 months, it will be outdated, right? So the basic to all of that is to have those APIs open. And I think that's our mission as an industry.
Absolutely. All right, final question for each of you. I'm going to go around and ask you all, where can people contact you after this? Because I know the people still have many questions for you guys and would love to connect with each of you. So Mark, I'm going to start with you. Where can people find you?
Oh, okay. Well, obviously you can find me on LinkedIn, or you can come to our company page, smwllc.com. And anytime, open to having this conversation and discussing the opportunities and working with you.
Perfect. Adam, what about you?
Same. So LinkedIn is always a great medium to contact me, or you can email me directly at adam.sowers@sony.com.
Perfect. Petro?
Well, I have a bit longer name and a longer email address. So I would recommend going to LinkedIn because there really is no plausible deniability for me. I'm fairly certain I'm the only Petro Shimonishi in the world for which many people that know me well are really quite thankful. But anyway, please connect with me or please stop by Panasonic projector and display booth at Infocom. We would love to see you and talk with you about this very exciting initiative.
Amazing. Fair, what about you?
Yes, the best way to communicate with me is DM via my old LinkedIn profile. So I just paste on the comments. And obviously you can reach out to Wesco for us to connect, but both ways will work.
Amazing. And Omer, what about you?
Well, first of all, I guess for the initiative, OpenAV.Cloud, that's where vendors can fill the form and ask to join, and any other tech vendors. As for me personally, Omer at Xyte.io, Xyte.io, or obviously LinkedIn, and I'm looking forward to see everybody in person at Infocom as well. I think it's just in time for Infocom, so I'm super pumped about that.
Amazing. Thank you guys so much. And for all of you watching, you can scroll down to their headshots on the launch platform and click on those, and that will take you to their LinkedIn profiles. So thank you guys so much for being part of this very important conversation. You guys have been an amazing panel. Usually I am worried that, oh no, will the panel speak enough? And I was not worried about that at all with you guys. So thank you so much for being so much fun to talk to, but also so informative and fantastic for our audience to learn from. I appreciate you guys so much.
Thank you so much, Steph.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you guys. All right, and just a couple of housekeeping things here before I let you all go and our audience. So I think that first of all, we can agree the panelists were fantastic and definitely go and connect with them in any way that you can. But the key themes here, collaboration, openness, cloud integration, and the push for those IT aligned standards. I think those are all things that you guys can take away from this. Again, go to openav.cloud. I put that down in the networking chat so you guys can click directly there. And it's also here in my screen share. So you guys can go take a look at the partners, take a look at the initiative and learn a little bit more about it. And yeah, I would just love to reiterate that this is not just for manufacturers, not just for integrators, not just for end users. This is for everyone. It's going to make everyone's jobs and lives a lot easier. So thank you guys so much for watching. And we will see you next time. Thank you.